Good afternoon, CFM. This is Coach Matt with our Tuesday workout. We're going to begin today with a 400-meter jog on the first round of the warm-up, a 200-meter jog a little bit quicker on the second round. So we'll be doing some running in the warm-up. I'd like everybody to get some running in during the warm-up. Okay, then we're going to come back inside for some seated hip swivels. So we sit down on the ground, both knees bent. The top of one knee is close to the bottom of the other foot, and you can start with your hands on the floor. The more you stretch into this, the more I want you reaching forward and towards the knee that is pointed downward, right? So the knee where the inside of your leg is touching the ground, that's the one I want you leaning toward, and try to keep your hands in approximately the same spot no matter which side of your body the legs are facing, okay? So my knees are going left and right 5 times on each side, and I'm trying to keep my upper body and my hands pointing the same direction to feel that rotational stretch in my hips. All right, next we're gonna do scap push-ups and pull-ups, right? So you can start on the ground since you're already there. Scap push-ups, elbows straight, shrugging those shoulders back. This is a slow movement. I don't wanna see you like popping up and down on this. Squeeze, find the pain-free end range, and then squeeze the other direction. And again, find the pain-free end range of that movement, and don't feel like you have to have a super large or long range of motion on it. It really is just the movement of the shoulder blades back and forth, right? So we're trying to feel that, learn what it feels like, and warm up and strengthen those muscles. Then we'll do the same thing for scap pull-ups, vertical pull, and notice I'm keeping my feet on the ground for this one. And you can do that as well if you want to, or if you are very strong and confident with that movement, you take your feet off the ground, it makes it more difficult, okay? Standing quad pulls is next, so just grab the ankle, reach the opposite direction. So when I'm reaching, I'm trying to reach my hand and my knee, pretend like somebody's pulling those two things apart as I stretch that quad, but I'm also doing the whole chain up through my hip flexor, my oblique, and into my shoulder and my lat on the opposite side. So kind of pulling that diagonal line between my knee and my hand, right? Next one is toe touch to overhead reach. This is just a little relaxing warm-up exercise to loosen everything up, make sure our back, our spine, our hamstrings, neck, all that gets a little bit of attention before we get started. And then the last one is cat-cow. So again, a slow one, extending the belly pointed toward the floor, reach and look up, gently, again, find the end range that doesn't hurt, and move really slowly through those 4 positions, okay? And that's our warm-up for today. When you are finished with that warm-up, I want you to set up your pull-ups, right? And the way we're doing this today is very short. I don't want this to take longer than maybe like 7 to 10 minutes to get 3 sets of 5 challenging pull-ups, all right? So if you are someone who uses a band on your pull-ups, I would like for you to try to use either a lower pin height, which makes it harder, or a less stretchy band or less powerful band so that your arms have to do more work. If you can do these strict, unassisted, that's a great option, and maybe lengthen the time of the eccentric, right, of the descent to the bottom of the pull-up. Or if you are strong enough, you can add weight to this. But what I want is 3 sets of 5 reps. So that means 5 unbroken reps where my hands do not leave the bar, right? And then rest a little bit in between. So this is a very short strength session today, but it is meaningful in building your pull-up strength. And then when we finish that, we're gonna have a 25-minute AMRAP that will consist of more body weight pulling, but just in a different direction, okay? So we'll need a bar for that one. We'll set it up at a very moderate weight, so think like under half of your max shoulders to overhead lift, right? 95-65 is meant to be a conditioning weight that we should definitely get through the first couple rounds without stopping, and maybe in the later rounds I got to take 1 break, okay? So that is what our conditioning version of the weight should be for us today. And I would like for you to try to pick 1 weight and stick with it, even though you know it's going to get more challenging and you're going to have to take more rest as you go forward into this 25-minute workout, which is relatively long in terms of the time duration that we do workouts doing, okay? So 25 minutes is definitely meant to be a longer aerobic workout, but since we're doing these strength exercises, you can expect to start hitting muscle fatigue and muscle failure as we go into the later rounds of the workout, right? So it'll start with 15 ring rows, right? So I've got my rings set up approximately rib cage height, standing underneath them or close by, right? elbows straight at the bottom, and then row until my wrists touch my rib cage, right? Try to keep that body straight. Try not to use any hips when I do that. That is a strict movement when I'm pulling up and down, right? And then we're gonna go for a 400-meter jog, and then you're gonna come back, pick up that bar, and it's 15 reps of a push press, right? So from the shoulders to overhead, locking out the elbows at the top with the ears in between the arms, and then resetting to the shoulders every time. So I pick it up one time. I only have to pick it up one time. And then if I need to take a break, I set it down, take a break, pick it back up, and continue doing my reps, right? And then remember, anytime we have an overhead lift with a light weight, there's the potential for the bars to go flying all over the place. So please just use a little bit of caution and respect for your classmates and the equipment when you set it down, and not just aggressively ditch the weights every time you set it down, unless you need to for safety, okay? That's the purpose of the bumper weights. It is not a play toy to make noise with, and they're also not cheap. So, last thing is a 500-meter row, right? Ideally, the 500-meter row and the 400-meter run are relatively close in the time duration, but most of the time the 500-meter row will take a little bit longer than the 400-meter run. But either way, you're swapping back and forth between those two cardio tools. If all the rowers are full up when you get to them, when you get to that point in the workout, you can either go for a run or go for a bike. Right? If you want to bike, it's 40 calories and 32 calories for the ladies as the offset. But as long as you're doing some moderate pace aerobic exercise in between those two weightlifting and body weight exercises that will fit the intensity demand for today, and try to stay aerobic. When we pick the weights, make sure we're not picking a weight that's so heavy that I have to take 3 breaks or 4 breaks, okay? So think 1 break, maybe 2 breaks at the end when I'm really, really tired, okay? All right, and that's it for today. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday.